Good afternoon. You know, I stood up here about 15 seconds ago, and I know that this is our 28th North American CF meeting. And some of us, and I just saw Dan Shidlow, who was at the first North American CF meeting in Toronto. We held it at one hotel, and we had 470 people. And we thought that was a great success. We have 4,100 people here in this room today. What a great story. You know, I couldn't help but to reflect back at that meeting. You know, we only had pediatricians in the room. You know, we had some basic scientists in the room, like Paul Quinton and Mike Knowles and Rick Boucher, that had this hypothesis that they were working on about chloride not getting in and out of the cell properly. And to think where we are today with oral drugs that are treating the basic defect and the prospects that we have for the future is just amazing to think where we've come from and our vision for the future. And it's a tribute to each and every one of you in this room that has happened. So thank you all for what you do. You know, it's not only you folks that are in the room that are at their laboratories or at the bedside, but it's also, this is an amazing community of volunteers that goes out and raises the money. Many of them have children with cystic fibrosis. They're taking care of those children. They go out and raise the money and help to drive the science that is creating the sense of optimism that we all have today. And we have some special guests that are in the room here from our Georgia chapter, volunteers, and I want them to stand up and get to see what I see in terms of 4,100 people, and I want you to acknowledge their dedication to what you folks are doing. Folks, could you all stand up from the Georgia chapter? Please stand up. We also are streaming this, some of the sessions here, this plenary session, out to a large community of people that want to view this session. And we especially want to welcome our adults with cystic fibrosis who are having the opportunity to view this. This year, our board established a board committee of adults for CF, an adult advisory committee. We have an adult on our board. And we're continuing to look at ways to get the more and more adult input to the efforts of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, because today, unlike 28 years ago, we have nearly 50% of our patients over 18 years of age. That is another tribute to all of you. You know, I also want to take a special acknowledgement to those folks that are here for the first time. Whether you are an undergraduate student, whether you are a medical student, whether you are a fellow, whether you are new to respiratory therapy, physical therapy, you know, you are welcomed now into an amazing group of people. And they're driven by one single passion. And that's what really acknowledges, and that's what really makes this excitement that we are seeing here today. And that passion is to have a cure and control for cystic fibrosis. That's the unifying force. That is the laser-like focus that drives every single one. So we welcome you to our community. Thank you all for being here for the first time. But as a community, we have to celebrate our successes, and we have to mourn our tragedies. Today, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is mourning the loss of an amazing volunteer, an amazing ambassador, and an amazing friend to so many of us. But she's also, we remember her as the wife of a person that you all have met up on this stage many times before, our Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, Rich Mattingly. We lost Carolyn to a tragic event last week. We will miss Carolyn, but we will remember her in so many aspiring ways. You know, Rich Mattingly has been at this foundation for 38 years. I've been privileged to work side by side with him for 34. He started as an intern in college and has done so much for this organization. And there wasn't a day in his life or an event that he went to that Carolyn was not by his side. I have often said that Carolyn Mattingly, next to Rich Mattingly, ate more rubber chicken dinners than anybody I know. She meant more black tie events than anybody I know, except for Rich Mattingly, because she was always by his side. She was his inspiration, and she was the love of his life. There was also a very competitive side of Carolyn Mattingly that many of us remember. She was always first out of the slalom gate at the American Airlines Celebrity Ski. I think she won it a couple times. But a couple years ago, there was an inaugural bike event in Washington, D.C. area. And while Rich and Preston and I decided we were going to partake of the refreshment stand, there was a choice of whether Carolyn could ride 26 miles or 65 miles. She took the 65-mile route because there were no shortcuts for Carolyn Mattingly in this life. Her love for her husband, her love for this foundation, and her love for their daughter, Kristen. You know, we are a better organization because of Carolyn Mattingly. We are a better organization because of Carolyn Mattingly's love for her husband and her love for this organization and for the love of their daughter. You know, we really do appreciate the expressions of sadness and sympathy that Rich has received, that the foundation has received, because we've lost a great partner in Carolyn over the last 10 days. It was an amazing outpouring. But let me assure you that something that was said at a memorial service that over 600 people, many people in this room, attended a couple of weeks ago, that was said by their daughter, Christian. You have to finish what you start. And you can believe Rich will be back here finishing what he started 38 years ago, as he is as committed to anybody to the efforts of cystic fibrosis. So we remember them, we pray for them, and we thank them for what they have done for us. And we thank God for Carolyn's life. So thank you for letting me say those few words.